But not really excited here in Philly because they have the late round pick here. But enough intrigue in the draft to see what they're going to do and what other teams are going to do. And for the expertise on the NFL draft, let's bring in a man who is ESPN's draft expert and also carries some major clout in the fantasy football world. NFL draft expert on ESPN, Field Yates, joins us. Hello, Field.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are we doing today?
Fantastic. How are you?
I am doing great. I am. This is the last thing that I will be doing before I get in the car to head to the airport to go to Green Bay, Wisconsin, which means that we're getting closer and closer to what should be a great 3 days out there in one of the great football cities, really across the country.
Yes, this is sort of the calm before the storm for you, but you've been in the storm this whole time, analyzing what's going on. So let's get right to the Eagles. We know they like trench guys, right? So, the word is they could trade back a little bit where offensive lineman would be, or they can stay there hoping that maybe a defensive tackle like Walter Nolan falls to them, or trade up to get a first-round graded guy that they really like. What are you hearing about the Eagles?
Yeah, they are in a really good spot, and what else is new? It's the Philadelphia Eagles, and it's the NFL draft. As I look through the order 1 through 32, and these are very, very different spots in the order, obviously. I look at the Bears as kind of the early team where the board feels very open to me. They're obviously a far ways away from where Philadelphia is right now, but after they hit offensive line heavily through free agency and trades, that team at number 10 kind of feels like you let the board come to you and you address one of your remaining needs. Much further down the board is the Philadelphia Eagles, and maybe this is just what we do with the defending Super Bowl champions, but if they played a game tomorrow, which I think I would be into, but I'm sure the Eagles are very happy to have a little bit more time to rest and recover from the rigors of a long season, this team could line up 22 starters, and I think feel pretty good about it. Obviously, it isn't the same as last year, but I think they feel as though a lot of their reinforcements can come from within on the roster last year, and they could still be a very, very good football team. That being said, of course, Philadelphia has always done a great job of kind of eyeing a year or two away in potential needs. So I still look at offensive or defensive line, which I will do every single year with the Eagles, especially because of the fact that, a year from now, Jalen Carter will be, I guess, fifth-year option eligible, and they will have a lot sunk into that defensive tackle room, which they watched Milton Williams walk away this offseason in free agency, but all of a sudden the price tag of that collective room between Jordan Davis and also Jalen Carter and other pieces they have in that place, it will be a lot more expensive than it has been in prior years. So defensive tackle, edge rusher, and offensive line certainly strike me as potential needs for the Eagles, as well as more cornerback depth as they have had some changes there this offseason.
What are you hearing about Walter Nolan and the character issues that may make him slip, and whether it is a possibility that he's there at 32?
I think this year, so I'll speak generally, and then I'll get to Walter in a second. I think generally this is the kind of year where there are players that we're talking about as potential sliders to pick 32 that could be gone by pick 15. I actually think Walter will be gone well before the Eagles are on the clock at number 32. But this is a year where last year it felt like a lot of blue chippers at the top. You might have had a couple of dissenters here or there, but I think pretty much the entire league felt as though the 3 quarterbacks at the top, plus 3 receivers, plus Brock Bowers, and a couple of offensive tackles were all kind of lock it in, top 10 to 12 overall prospects. And all of those guys, except for Bowers, went in the first 12 picks. Bowers went 13th because of that quarterback run. This is a year where there are a couple of blue chippers at the very top. Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter lead the way there. But, beyond that, it's a lot more of beauty in the eye of the beholder. So, Walter, maybe he's there at 32. I'm dubious of it. I think he is long gone because I do think he'll find a home earlier. Walter can be as good as he wants to be. His snaps this past year at Ole Miss looked like his snaps at Texas A&M the 2 years prior, that when he's rushing, he's about as devastating and powerful of an interior pass rusher as we have in this entire draft class. He had 6.5 sacks this past season. He's got great inline power. He's got an explosive first step. He has very good instinct as a pass rusher as well to kind of sense when and where his opportunities lie. So I wouldn't be surprised if Nolan's gone in the first 20 picks. There's just a ton of talent there for a guy who has been on the scene since his high school days, because when he came out of high school and landed at Texas A&M, this wasn't a big-time recruit. This was the biggest-time recruit. He was the number 1 player in some recruiting services. So I just think that kind of talent doesn't make its way all the way down to 32.
Phil, the last time the Eagles had the 32nd overall pick was when they won the Super Bowl in the 2017 season, and they traded out with the Baltimore Ravens, who jumped back into the first round to get Lamar Jackson. Is there any quarterbacks that you could see still on the board around 32 that a team would want to jump back in and make a trade with the Birds?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think it's any quarterback not named Cam Ward. So Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, I think are the two most likely candidates that we'll be talking about. Is it possible that either of them goes earlier than that? Of course it is, but I think it's unlikely that three quarterbacks are off the board by the time the Eagles pick at number 32. I think it's probably more likely that two of them are off the board, or one of them are off the board at number 32. And I mentioned how last year was the blue chip year. You got all these guys at the very top of the board. This is the year where the staff of the Philadelphia Eagles may have a guy at 50 that the Commanders may have at 100. There's a lot of blending of players in the middle round. So Philadelphia moved from 32 to 36 or 32 to 40. I just don't think there's nearly enough variance in prospects that they should be deterred by the possibility of adding a bunch of extra swings. As we also know with Philly, because you have a great team and great success, you have very expensive players, and the bill will continue to come due for the likes of Jalen Carter and other guys who will eventually be extension eligible. We saw just yesterday, Kim Jurgens gets his extension. This is just the reality of the roster that they have built, which means that you got to have really, really strong drafts. And one way to do that, and Howie Roseman knows this, is you take a lot of swings, right? You got a lot of cuts at the draft. And so if they have the opportunity to move back from 32, a handful of spots, and pick up an extra pick or two, I just think this is the draft where it feels like the perfect time to do so. Because I'm just telling you guys, as I've gone through my top 100 and even my top 200, I found players that I wake up some mornings, I think to myself, how did I have that guy all the way down at 120? And then you look at the players ahead of him and you say to yourself, well, there's a lot of good players that are already on the board, but there is excellent, excellent depth in this year's class. Last year's class was much weaker on day 3. I think we're going to see some real impact players that end up being taken on day 3 of this year.
Talking to Field Yates, ESPN draft expert. Field, the consensus is it goes Cam, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter. Can Shedeur Sanders slide in there at all to the Giants? Are they desperate enough for a quarterback that they would draft him that high?
Yeah, I think that, first of all, it's possible. For sure it's possible. I don't know if it's likely, but it's possible. I think that the Giants' calculus is more along these lines, is that I don't think they have Shedeur Sanders as a higher graded prospect than Abdul Carter. If they did, this conversation would not be a conversation at all, right? It would be, we're taking Shedeur and we're feeling great about it. I think it comes down to this. It's possible if the Giants are maybe not enamored with, but feel strongly enough about Shedeur Sanders that they could make him a draft pick of theirs, that they say, we're not going to do it at 3, but we would feel better about it later on in the first round. As you guys know, though, the significant risk that comes with that is I don't think that the Raiders or the Jets or the Saints are going to take Shedeur Sanders at pick 6, 7, and 9. But we don't know that, right? For as much intel as there has been shared over the past couple of months about the draft, we also know that most smart executives are holding everything close to the vest because there is zero incentive for them to leak information, because this is it's not like everybody gets to take a chance on these players. One team gets these players and it comes at a very specific time. So the Giants are probably saying to themselves, all right, hey, we could not draft Shedeur at 3 and then just get back into the mix somewhere. But how do you guarantee that? You can't. Unless you have a deal already orchestrated to trade back into the first round, but it just becomes a much more complicated exercise. So my guess is Shedeur Sanders probably does not go 3. And once that happens, then if the Giants feel strongly about Shedeur, then they're running some risk, because it just takes one other team to either be ahead of you when you pick next or jump ahead of you when you pick next to make him their developmental quarterback.
All right, Field, I know you got a hard out, so just a real quick one for me. This will be the last one. In your latest mock draft with Mel Kiper, you had the Eagles taking Jahad Campbell, the linebacker out of Alabama, local kid at 32. Do you see him as an off-ball linebacker in the NFL, or would they transition him to an edge rusher?
I think he's an off-ball linebacker in the NFL primarily, but the fact that he has the edge rusher in his bag is just, that's just like icing on the cake here, right? And I know the Eagles haven't taken an off-ball linebacker in the first round since, 1975 or something ridiculous. So I get it. There are some who say that's just a non-starter. I also don't think the Eagles were being talked about as a big money running back team last year. And now Howie Roseman has made Saquon Barkley the highest paid running back in NFL history. I think kind of the beauty of Howie is that he is unafraid to zig when everybody thinks he is going to zag. He is constantly looking for market inefficiencies that he can exploit. So Campbell, who's got some health concerns, he's coming off of labrum tear surgery, which was done after the combine. So you're talking about early March for that surgery. Could be a 6-month recovery. It might be that he's not full strength at the start of training camp or even the start of the regular season. But the Eagles, as we know, as the reigning champions, they've got plenty of talent on this roster that they can wait. I mean, they have drafted players recently in the back end of the first round, like Nolan Smith, who in effect were developmental players in their first season. So the Eagles, the beauty of always drafting for value and not drafting for need is that once you get on that cycle, it allows you to continually add good players because you're not falling victim to the pressure of needing them right now because of the quality of the roster overall.
Fields, listen, we appreciate you coming on, and we'll look forward to your reports with the big draft coming up. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
That's Field Yates checking in. I wanted to ask him one more question, but I knew he had to go.
What was that?
Car. Well, since he's a fantasy football guy, I wanted to ask him if Abdul Carter did slide to 4.
Don't even ask
the
it.
Patriots.
Don't even say it.
A.J. Brown, would he, as a fantasy football expert, make that trade? And I think he would have said yes.
He would have said,
so there.
I can't even wrap my head around it because of the salary cap ramifications.
610-632-0975 is how you climb into the show. It's the Mike Missanelli Show. Back after this.
Hey, everybody, it's Bill Colarulo. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Make sure you like and subscribe to our channel so you can engage during the show, and you're not going to want to miss all the content that we post. It's not only the live videos. It's videos after the fact. It's our shorts. It's all the content you want as a Philadelphia sports fan. Looking forward to connecting.